based on my time there were many lessons that I learned from both companies, right? What to do and what not to do. This particular diagram kind of summarizes a lot of those learnings into three very simple items. And this isn't rocket science, but it became very clear to me that there were some very simple distinctions between those two organizations. And it was all around expectations, action, and sustainment. Those are kind of the three areas that I saw very, very clear differences. Now, at the company that had a continuous appearance culture, that company had some spotty areas of all of these three items. So sometimes you would go into a plant or a facility where they set some clear expectations. Maybe they made those expectations visual. Maybe leaders communicated them properly, and they even enabled action. They gave their team members time to work on improvements, around the organization, or work on some of the ideas that they had put out there. However, they never put any action or any intentionality behind the sustainment of the action items. Right. So what happened here was in these areas, the change was never sustained. Right. The flavor of the month type of things were happening because there wasn't any importance put on sustainment. In other areas where we would go in the organization, we would see where there was action enabled, time was given to work on continuous improvement, and maybe they had a good sustainment plan in place. Maybe they were doing Gemba walks. Maybe they had some daily management in place, or they had a layered audit system in place. But in the beginning, they never set clear expectations. They never aligned the organization to some long-term goal or a true north, and cascaded those goals through the organization. So, we had this shotgun effect where everyone was working on all these different things, and it wasn't necessarily moving us toward the organizational goals, right? So there was really a lack of organizational alignment. And then the last thing, again, different places that I would go into, they had set clear expectations. They had a sustainment plan, but they said they were too busy for improvement. They were too busy to work on these things. So, people either had to, come in their off time, or, they would pay overtime sometimes, but most of the time they wouldn't even give them time to work on improvements. And when this happened, they received mediocre results. The difference was that at company continuous improvement, they had all three of these things happening. And when all three of these things were happening, when they set very clear expectations that were in alignment to a long-term goal, when those goals were cascaded down through the organization to the frontline workers who knew exactly why they were doing what they were doing and what they needed to do to improve to help reach those goals, right, that were very clear on those expectations. And also there was accountability behind that as well. But then the team also enabled action. They gave their team members time to work on improvements. Leaders had time blocked for Gemba walks. They had time blocked for their tier meetings. They had time blocked for active problem solving, to drive to root cause. They had time blocked to be able to work with their team members and coach their team members on learning how to problem solve themselves. So they enabled that action. They supported it. And then the last one was that they sustained the results. They had intentional action behind sustainment. We had layered audit systems set up where executive leaders were involved, mid-managers were involved, and frontline employees were involved in helping to sustain the actions. There was daily management in place that were updated on a regular basis with action items, with asking ourselves basically three questions. How did we do yesterday? What's the plan for today? And what do we need to do differently? If we didn't meet our plan yesterday, what do we need to do differently today so that we can hit our plan, right? Very simple questions that were asked to the team on a regular basis. And then any gaps between where we wanted to go and where we were today were identified. We talked about root cause, and then we created action items around how to close the gap on those. And that was happening on a regular basis at company continuous improvement.